Hey man, how's it going?
Howdy doody, not too bad. It's been pretty hot this week.
Has been
Um,
beautiful though. Beautiful weather.
very yes, yes. And speaking of nature, there was a magpie's nest in the backyard here, and I
Hmm.
think there's three little baby chicks that are like I don't know, teenagers, young teenagers. Two of them can kind of fly, and there's another one that
Oh
can't
yeah.
really fly yet, and I think it's just the younger one. So I've been putting a frisbee full of water. Yes, that's right, a frisbee full of water because it was the only thing that was bowl shaped
Oh, that's
for the
nice
last
of
little
you.
while. Yeah, but I'm scared that the one bird can't fly and will eventually die. So
Well,
I'm not ready to
we'll
deal with that emotion yet.
we'll see what happens, I guess. But yeah, thank you, Mitchell, for coming back, obviously, and welcome everybody back
You
to
make me,
yeah, welcome
not by
back everybody to
choice.
Bite My Shiny Metal Cast, episode 13 of season 3, Bendin in the Wind. Yeah, let's jump right into it here. Open caption at the beginning of the episode, right? Federal law prohibits changing the channel. You know, fun little thing, I guess here. Don't change the channel from Futurama, obviously, and you shouldn't because
I
it's
wouldn't.
yeah, especially right now, it's a good show.
Well,
We'll talk a little bit about that in the
yeah,
future.
the new season comes out what, next week?
A few weeks, I think, a couple weeks still. Yeah.
It's like the
Or is
29th.
it
It's on
next
a
week?
Monday.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
so
coming. You're
it's
up. Yeah,
it's it's
you're
in
right. It's
like
coming up.
in
Yeah.
math days, 11 days
Yeah.
ish.
When this episode airs, the new season or part of the season, whatever it is, will be
Yeah,
coming up, right? So
yeah.
we'll see what
The,
happens.
the following Monday. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we open on New York, and we have it's a. I actually kind of like this opening shot because we kind of get to see like the city. We don't really get to see this whole thing very
No, yeah,
often.
it's generally like a outside
Planet
view of a Planet
Express or
Express, and there's
yeah.
usually a
So
couple buses or something going by. But no, this is a city shot, which it's the
yeah.
future. I would like to see a little more lore, so to speak, of the city.
Exactly. And I think that's something I appreciate about this episode is that we get to see a lot of that throughout it, especially when they're doing like little montages of them driving across the
Yeah,
United States. I really like that.
yeah. Well,
So
well,
seeing this, it's
so
quite
of,
nice to
of the
see it. Yeah.
future of New York, what's like one of your favorite aspects of it?
Well, I guess like I do like the tubes.
The
I
tubes are
like
probably the
the
best part about it.
yeah,
Yeah.
the tubes are really cool. I do like the building design as well. Like it looks futuristic
Yeah.
but it's also still kind of like retro futuristic.
It's what the
So
future we thought would look like back in the
yeah,
early 90s when
exactly.
there
I
was
do
still
like
hope in her eyes. Nowadays, it's all glum and chum.
if there even is a New York in the future, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Every 10 years, we're
yeah,
supposed to die from something.
sure. But I also do really like at the beginning of this shot, we have like there's a very brief glimpse, like if you blink and you'll miss it, type of like I think it's a sea monster. It's like
Yeah,
a sea
like
serpent or whatever
like
goes
like the
into the water.
Ogopogo.
Yeah, so I kind of like I don't
That's a
know. I
very
thought that was
niche
kind of funny.
Canadian
Yeah,
market for the Ogopogo.
sure.
So,
I
and
really
I'm
like
pretty
that.
sure you've been to Kelowna many times too, like I have. It was kind of a somewhat every yearly visit for us. And well,
Yeah,
where's the Ogopogo? Well, it's in the Okanagan Lake. We're gonna find it, but
yeah.
don't let it get you. Oh,
It's Canada's
why?
version of the Loch Ness monster, which is not as
Yes.
famous as the Loch Ness monster.
No, God, no. But yeah, yeah, I do love the design for New York. I think one of my favorite things
Mhm.
is the clock tower, which is a digital clock that's actually also physical.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
that's the one
It
episode
is
with
now
Santa.
3 a.m.
Oh, there's also that one. Yes, I do
Yeah.
like that too.
That one's
Um,
I like that. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
because
true.
we all
Yeah,
have
they
had
changed
digital
the analog to
clocks.
the digital of everything, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
but
true.
it's
Yeah,
also like an actual physical thing, which like disappears and stuff like that one episode with Fry hanging on it. It's
sure. Oh,
it's yeah, yeah.
that's right. Yeah, that's the Christmas one. That's right. So, yeah, we open to this New York, which yeah, Mitchell and I have discussed just now. Like we really enjoyed the look of it. It's quite nice to see once in a while. But we also get the sound of Bender singing. I don't quite recognize what he's singing, but he doesn't really know the words anyway. He's kind of just making them
No,
up. The tune sounds
I think
familiar.
it's just
Yeah,
Bender being a folk singer.
sure.
So
It
I
does sound.
yeah.
There's something about it though that does kind of make me think like, oh, I might know that songs per se, but he's just
Um,
changing the lyrics a little bit. But in any case, it's so he and Fry are walking downtown, and he's singing. He's having a good time. They're having a nice day, and they pass by this like dump area or like this construction zone, I guess, and a small cameo of Sal, and he's like one of the construction workers here because he's like the tough, gruff kind of guy. So he's like
Yep.
pulling stuff out of the ground, and there's this he pulls up this old bag of chips from Fry's time, but Fry gets really excited to see, and
It's
Bender
an
takes a
actual
bite.
potato brand too. It's an
It is,
actual
I believe it is. Yeah,
brand. Yeah.
I
Have you
think
ever had
it's
a Lestra?
I can't say that I have. I was more Lay's, but that would
Yeah,
be
we got Lay's and what's the other brand?
Ruffles.
Ruffles.
Ruffles. Yeah,
Yeah,
Ruffles.
something like that. Yeah.
A few
The-
different brands, but I'm pretty sure those ones are the most common types normally.
The joke here, which I've heard from multiple different things, which makes me never ever want to try these chips, is that it's a what's the brand again? Alestra chips.
Alestra, there you go. Yeah.
So Bender tries one and then starts crapping out bricks.
Right.
But
Well,
and the funny thing about this too,
yeah,
the design for Bender, there's I think one of our the Comedy Central ones, Assy Come Home, where he has to give away his ass plate. There actually is like a brick shaped hole, I don't know what to call it, feature of Bender where he actually craps bricks.
Sure.
It's an actual thing that his robot can do. So that it just widens the lore for our Bender bot. What it does.
Robots. What exactly are these bricks made of? I'm curious to know as well. But it's not also the first time we've seen, like, maybe right now I think this is the first time we've ever seen Bender, as you said, crapping bricks. But like later when something happens to him, I think it's in one of them films, right?
Yeah, it was when the second movie where he touches
it blows up, right?
Yeah,
and
the rift,
and they're just coming out of him
as
as he's spinning in space. So it's kind of a funny joke there for it, and then like you see his eyes are like clearly like he's so uncomfortable. So anyway, they find this whole thing, but then right after they do the chip gag there, Sal also pulls up this old like 1970s van. And this van is like, your typical hippie one. In fact, it still has like skeletons of the original owners inside the van.
Volkswagen, that's what it's called. Volkswagen
van. Yep. And so I do like this. I don't know if you caught this because later, like right after this, Leela kind of has a similar joke. But Bender looks at it and says, "Oh, is this one of those old Led Zeppelins you've told me about?"
Which is a band / an actual type of guitar, right?
Not a guitar. It's just the band.
Okay.
Just the band. The Led Zeppelin was just like the name of the band or whatever. They're famous for like Stairway to Heaven. So in any case, so he says this and Fry, discusses like, oh no, it's a van from the 70s, all this stuff, and he asks to take it, and Sal says, yeah, just dump the corpses, and makes a joke about having used cars before. It's kind of funny. So Fry takes the van and he pushes it all the way to Planet Express, and it's funny because like Fry's pushing it, but Bender's sitting inside. So
drinking too. He's drinking as well, which is just another thing.
And the tires are flat, so Fry's had to push this, who knows how far, all the way back to the Planet Express. And the crew greet him, like Professor, Leela, Hermes. These guys are all here. And Leela, this is what I was alluding to earlier, makes a joke about, is this one of those Jefferson Starships I've heard about, which is another 1970s band. Which is just kind of funny to hear, like these two bands are very similar in terms of like these aerodynamic type of vehicles or ships or whatever, but they're made with certain things or kind of sound kind of strange. So I like that. And so Fry introduces the van. He opens it up and they see all like the bright colors, and I think there was there shag carpet in there as well, and the sofa.
Yeah,
all the
I think
stuff,
70s
right?
colors, like oranges and greens. Mm-hmm. And really off yellows. Just picture a color, but like puke it would be the best way to sound, and make it a little neon. They're electric. That's perfect. Electric vomit colors.
Yeah, there you go. So they're all impressed by this van, and they try starting it or whatever, but unfortunately there's no gas because obviously this is like thousands of years old. This has been around. So Fry mentions like, we need to get some gas or whatever, but it turns out, as the professor calls him an idiot, gas ran out in 2038. So I want everybody to mark this in the calendars because this is actually this is pretty soon, right? Only like 14 years away as of recording. That's like gas is supposed to run out by 2038 according to the Futurama timeline. So
not to belittle your thought, it is a renewable source. That's all I gotta say. It just takes time to do it. Just because think about it.
Yeah, it takes another million years.
It's made from dinosaurs, which were a long time ago. There was things that came after the dinosaurs. They're just not quite fully processed to make a petrol yet.
Yeah,
we'll get there.
Wait another million years.
So it is renewable. It just takes a long, long time.
But as they're waiting, because clearly they're still waiting 1,000 years in the future, we have whale oil, which is kind of, what is it called, like Mobile Dick or something, like it's
like that. It's a joke,
play on of that. So it's this giant can, right? Literally looks like what are those called, like those barrels or whatever, right?
Barrels, like oil barrels kind of
oil
thing.
Barrels,
instead of oil barrels, it's whale oil barrels.
It's a whale oil barrel.
It's Mobile Dick. It's not mobile, but it's mobile
Dick or whatever, right? Because it's like Moby Dick, right?
Jeez.
Obviously from the
Yes.
whale novel, which we also actually referenced a few episodes back, obviously with the
Earth
brains,
is the day
right?
that the Earth stood stupid. So someone
Exactly.
must really like that book.
Yep. So Leela asks Bender, obviously, because Bender not only is, a robot, and he's super strong, but he's able to kind of he does a lot of this work as he can, right? So she asks him oh, yo, would you mind taking the can and bringing it to our electric can opener, which looks like a normal can opener, but giant
Yeah.
for these cans, and put it in and open it for us for the van. And so Bender actually says, no way, I'm not going anywhere near this. And he references, I second that emotion, when it actually brought him. This is from the second season when Nibbler disappears, when he almost gets zapped up and he gets zapped up and his head almost gets cut off. So during this time, so he's actually referencing that. So good continuity on that end. But Fry,
which we have discussed before, that the continuity has kind of slipped here and forth with the last few episodes. With this one really picks up
again. For this episode, at least, they do kind of continuously stick with their continuity for the most part, right?
Yes.
Because then right after this, Fry does actually also makes a mention of another episode that we've seen in the past, where he mentions that magnets tend to screw with Bender's inhibition unit, which makes him want to sing folk songs. This is a reference to the second episode of the series. The series has landed when he gets them I think it's at the Luna World, and he gets them the magnets, and he puts one on Bender's head and he starts singing, and then before he takes it off, he tells him, So as he says this, of course, Bender kind of denies any wanting to be a folk singer, but he has the shifty eye thing. So deep down inside, he does want to be a folk singer, but he just doesn't want to admit it.
The Bender-ness of that.
Yes, I know, right? So, any case, Fry looks at him and says, well, listen, because we know you were afraid, and we know it almost cut you, and the whole magnet thing. But listen, if you don't do this, then it's going to own you. So you got to try and do it, right? And they all kind of encourage Bender to, you know what? Yeah, I can do this. So he picks up the can, he walks over, and immediately fails.
I do like this little attention to detail there.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is an industrial grade electric can opener, which I just love the fact that it's just a giant can opener. They do have warning signs and stuff like that, and even on the ground it has those yellow lines, hey, watch out, you're underneath yellow lines. It's an electric can opener. Children use those.
Right. So, any case, Bender's brought in, and he starts turning, and it's magnetized, so he starts singing, and it's he's spinning around, and he's I
do like it. Yeah, he's doing Jimmy Crack Corn, and I don't care. Oh God, it's a Jimmy Crack Corn.
And as he's being cut up and he's turning around, it's shocking. It looks kind of like a horror scene actually, because they're all looking at him in fear. And then even Zoidberg has oh, it's toe-tappingly tragic.
I do like that. That's a great
That's a pretty good line. So they end up Bender ends up getting cut up, and the next scene we cut to Cedar's sine wave robot hospital, which we see a couple times in the series for broken robots.
Now, is that some sort of reference to something? Because I know that sin, they spell it SINE, which is the cosine and sine and
sine wave.
Tangent.
I wouldn't know exactly what it is, but I'm sure it's probably Synwave or Cinewave or something, and it's probably a similar name, but they've just changed it to sine. Because Cedar's sine wave, that's all I could really think of.
There's a lot of those hospitals that are called Evergrove or Cedar Grove or Cedarwood or something,
right,
to make it sound
it's supposed to make
people
nice.
aren't dying there.
Right.
Yeah,
it's supposed to sound all natural and everything.
Yeah.
Sure.
But I think the sign thing is the math graph charts and stuff like that.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense to me. I would put it into that. So here we have the sine wave. And I do want to mention as well, because a few episodes ago, I think you and I were talking about this particular scene. We thought this is the first instance of seeing the Chihuahua at the Taco Bellevue one. But this is actually a different hospital. So the Taco Bellevue hospital, the Dr. Chihuahua one, is not in this. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's in the Community Central
word, man, isn't it?
No, we've talked about this. They don't go to a hospital. That's in.
Oh, right. They're talking to the old lady. I can't remember her name.
Yeah. That's
when she goes, how's my sis? Grande.
Yeah. Grande, exactly. So I believe that's in the Comedy Central run. But in any case, this is a different hospital.
Well, when we see it, we'll go, see, we've talked about this pretty much every third episode. Here it is.
Yeah. We finally saw the Chihuahua doctor. So Bender's in bed and he's all
Mangled.
I mean, he's all mangled, but like from the look of him, the only thing that's really mangled obviously is his chest.
Yeah,
Right.
just carved up.
But his arms and legs are like perfectly straight, and only his head is like being able to move, like he can still speak. But he's told, unfortunately, that due to his, I believe he says, his hydraulics are shot, his motor skills, all this kind of stuff, he will never move again. And the doctor says, like, you'll have to buy a new one to the professor. Anyway, everybody's all sad, and they're like, oh, that's poor Bender and all this kind of stuff. And we get a little cameo or scene, I guess, if you will, because I think we see him a couple times in the series, just randomly popping up. This is Patch Cord Adams, which is a reference, of course, to I think it's Patch Corn Adams from, or Patch Adams or something from
Patch Adams from Robin Williams did it in the movie Patch Adams, I think is what it's called.
That's what
I
the
can't
movie
remember.
is, right? Yeah. So he comes in, and I think it's Maurice LaMarche, right? Sounds very much like he has his Robin Williams impersonation. He comes in, and he does like a bad joke. Says like, oh, hey, you can have this or whatever. And he's like, oh, you can't get it. It's like, can you not move? It's like, always like, can't. So anyway, he leaves.
He also did another joke too. It was like, what were you using the Windows 3000 as a prison guard?
This is the bad joke.
Yeah, which is a reference to Windows 2000, which was 24 years ago when it came out or so.
That always locks up.
Yep.
Right. Like I said, bad joke. So Bender's threatening to kick his ass, but he can't move. So in any case, Patchcord Adams leaves, and Bender asks everybody to leave so he can be alone in his grief, and they all take off. And as he's kind of sitting there being mopey and crying, he hears an harmonica playing the blues, the music blues. And, he's like, oh, that's kind of interesting, because Bender secretly wants to be a folk singer. So he hears it, and the curtain comes by, and the doctor comes in. And we see here that someone in another bedside next to Bender it's a person, but he's like the head person, right? So it's a distant, old
head in a
person,
jar.
whatever, head in a jar, right? And he's on a mannequin. So I guess he's in the robot hospital because he's being like fused onto this mannequin, I guess, but I'm not, whatever the case.
Yeah,
doesn't really
it's a very odd thing to have a human head at a robot thing. But I will say this, if anyone does like harmonica stuff, listen to Buddy Green's I can't remember, Orange Blossom. Really good, one of the best. And nice. But yeah, Futurama, why is this guy at a robot hospital?
Like I said, I think it's because he's being fused to said mannequin, and maybe the mannequin
but the mannequin's
can
not even robotic though.
Unless they're trying to do that, but he does also have those robot arms, which we'll get to here in a second. So it turns out, as Bender starts speaking to him, and he's playing the harmonica, it's Beck, the musician Beck, and he's here because he found this mannequin in this dumpster or whatever, and he's also playing the harmonica because he doesn't have any physical arms because he's just a head. He has these two robot little arms around his neck, which allow him to kind of move them. I'm gonna say like telekinetically, I guess.
He does say that, yeah.
Like use your
mind powers,
your mind to move him, kind of whatever.
Now this was actually Beck who did this, right?
Yeah. Yep. It's actually Beck, like
cool.
Special guest starring Beck. Yeah. Unfortunately, we couldn't get him for the show. He was too busy, but
yeah, he was too busy being old.
Yeah. So Beck is actually in the show. And as Bender explains the situation to him about how he wanted to be a singer and a musician, all this stuff, he'll never be able to because his body's like useless now. But then Beck has an idea, and he says, maybe you would actually be the best musician ever. So he actually has the doctor give him the arms around his neck and give them to Bender, put them around his neck. So I guess we could say, actually, we kind of know this from the Futurama universe because the delta brainwave, right, is actually connected to robots as well. So this is probably
most robots, yeah.
So I would actually argue, yeah, exactly. These kinds of robots, right? I would argue then, does that mean Fry can't use this?
Well, you know what? That's a very good point. They never said anything about the delta brainwave. But that's a very good. That's a very good. It was a very good. Like, they both have that. Mm-hmm. Well.
So would that be a way of telling whether or not Fry had the delta brainwave if he can't use these things, or is his compiled jumbled of different brainwaves working as a delta brainwave? Is that able to move it instead? I don't know. Probably. But
it just says use the power of your mental thoughts. That's, I think, when Bender's like struggling, Beck just says use your mental powers.
That's right.
So
yeah, use those things.
We can just chalk it up to
scratch your chest like butter on burnt toast or something, right?
Yeah. I think this is before Bluetooth was invented. I'm not quite sure, but so Yeah, we'll go with mental robot power.
Sure. So he has them do this, and he has Bender scratch his chest, and it basically sounds like a washboard. So Beck is like, okay, you're in, and he says, what? You're gonna be my new washboard player in my band. I'm gonna take you around, and we're gonna play music together. So Beck just hires Bender, no problem, and Bender's super thrilled. So the next scene we see, they're going to go on tour, and the bus shows up outside of Planet Express, and Bender is in one of those, I guess you could call it like a dolly. He's like kind of strapped to a dolly, like something you'd use like to move like a giant fridge or some kind of, like a giant box or something. So he's in that, and he's strapped into it so he can't fall down, but he still has the little arm things. And as they're doing this, Fry has the idea, why don't we follow Beck and the band with you, Bender, and we'll just take my van, because I guess they got the can opener open, and or can opener to work, and they got the can open and got the whale oil inside of the van, so it works. And they decide to go follow them with Leela, Amy, and Zoidberg, funny enough. So this is gonna be fun. There's also a fun joke about how Beck says like they have to arrive early so that they can make the audience wait, so they shouldn't be late to do that. I love those little things. Like even Amy, right? She said in that one episode, like I'll just be 20 minutes when Fry was on her shoulder. Yeah. And he says like, well, you're ready now. Like, why are you waiting 20 minutes? It's like, oh, sometimes it's good to make the guy wait. He's like, I knew it. So
let's defend the females a little bit. They do have more stuff to put on. Guys, underwear, pants or shorts in my case. T-shirt, nice T-shirt, whatever.
It also depends on where it usually depends on where you're going as well. But yes, there's a lot. There's also the makeup. There's also like doing the hair. There's all this other stuff.
Oh right? God, yeah. When you do your hair, it takes forever. Me, I just wet comb through the hair. Boom, done.
Boom, done. Yeah. So we have this montage of the group. The two groups, right? The bus and the van who's following them, traveling across the USA in the year 3000. And I have to admit, I paused. I wanted to see like some of these states have changed, right? So we have the obvious, like there's two obvious ones, kind of like New York, obviously, which we knew,
and New Jersey,
New York City, and New Jersey. Okay, so that one's fine. And then we have Sylvania mixed with the Penn Republic. So Pennsylvania has split. They had a civil war, and they are now two different states. And then we have Washington AC. It's no longer DC. And then, West Virginia is the same. Virginia has now become East-West Virginia, so that's changed slightly. Ohio is now Ehio. And
someone thinks it's like an eBay joke.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. That's why it's all capitalized.
Yeah, eBay map. Came out around this time, I would say.
Sure. And then the last one is Kentucky has now become Ucky. Doesn't have anything else.
Ken is not there
Ken
anymore.
Is gone. Yeah, Kentucky is now Ucky. So we have this kind of fun thing. I love seeing that. I think that's hilarious. It's really, really well done. So we cut to Fry and the group, and his group rather. They're washing clothes at this laundromat, right? Because they're on tour and they're traveling by themselves, so they have to do their own laundry and buy food on the way and everything. And what should happen is that Zoidberg had washed his clothes. His shell. Which I guess is with that, so I don't know how he washes his shell. It doesn't matter. Point is, his shell is red. And back in the day, this is not really a thing anymore, but back in the day, if you mixed color with white,
specifically red,
your clothes, if they were white, would come out with multiple colors of like faded versions of red. But nowadays, I think a lot of the clothes are better material, at least for their coloring and everything.
Yeah,
and the machines tend to be a bit better too. So honestly,
most things are polyester or polyester.
Yeah, and there's some like soaps and whatever you can get that kind of help with runningness. But if Zoidberg's shell ran, doesn't that mean that Zoidberg's like shell should be like light pink or something? Like it should be faded, right? Or
shall I use my little sticky note here with
also an
special
alien.
Note of
that's
the
true.
suspension of disbelief. It's just a funny joke because it's definitely of the time. Was like don't put the reds with whites.
But in this situation though, it turns out to work out in their favor because it makes their clothes look pretty cool because they're like they now look like
180
hippies.
turn.
So like on there, this whole thing. Zoidberg even says, "Aha, you're lucky to have a friend like
Yeah,
Zoidberg.
it was all on
right?
purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, now Fry, Amy, and Leela all have and Zoidberg, I guess he has his doctor's outfit. It was also white. It's now like pinkish. So they have like these psychedelic pink colors as their clothing.
Tie-dye clothing. But
Tie-dye,
it's just
whatever
pink.
you
It's
wanna
just
say,
tie-dye
yeah.
pink. Yeah. So,
So-
we go to a concert after this.
Yeah, the
It's
first
called
concert.
Squatters Corner Civic
Yeah.
Auditorium.
Thank you. Yes, and the first concert at Squatters, and yeah, it turns out that as they're playing their song, I believe actually as well. I'm not sure if you were a fan of Beck, Mitch. I
You know what? I didn't know
Yeah.
who he was until pretty much I watched this, and I think I looked him up way a long time ago. I was like, oh, that is a musician, not just
Okay.
some random guy.
Like I like Beck a little bit. I don't go out of my way to listen to him, but I don't mind his music. I think he is kind of like his own folksy kind of genre in some
Yes.
way. But I believe that the songs that we're hearing in this show are a couple of his actual songs, hence the reason why he's guest starring. But they're playing one of his songs and everyone's like getting into the rhythm of it and everything. And even the other four are watching them and cheering on and everybody. And it turns out though, unfortunately, even though the shirts all look really good, but their money was also washed in their laundry, and it turns out to ruin their cash and their coins and all this stuff.
Yeah,
so they actually
even the
have no money
coins.
now. Yeah, it's a horrible laundromat. So I guess don't go wherever they went. Don't go to Squatters for to do your laundry. So yeah. So after the show, Bender and Beck are outside and they're talking about the show and everything, and Beck exclaims like, "Oh yeah, your washboard solo was so good, like I think it was 40 minutes or something,
Yeah,
like so
like half
good."
hour in, it really,
Yeah.
really made me
Yeah,
feel.
like when I was awake, it was really, really good. Right? So I thought that's a pretty good line. So anyway, as they're talking about this, and they see like these carts being sent around with like a bunch of these broken machinery. It's mostly and
like a
turns out to
mine
be
cart
robots.
full
Yeah,
of
mining
robots,
carts.
yeah.
Yeah, and I guess like this venue that they're playing, it was like at a barn, but it's like right next to this industry thing. So as they do this, they see these broken robots in these mine carts, as Mitchell mentioned, and the robots are like saying like, "Yo, Bender, oh man, like you give us hope, like oh wow, we're so
Great.
happy
yeah.
to be here.
You're the best. Oh my
You're the
god.
best, man." Yeah, like they're all happy and just like, "Oh, like you're an inspiration to us all." And Bender's like, "Oh wow, I thank you." Like he's actually kind of proud of it, but he's also like happy with the praise, obviously. But
Yeah, it's
this whole
Bender. He
thing-
likes this. There's a joke here I like. There's a female robot. It's like you just see her head talking. It's like, "Hey Bender, sign my chest. It's in that other card over there." Because like they're all like
right, 'cause
dismembered.
they're all broken apart, right? Yeah. And then like you see her chest, and it's like it's quite a chest and all that stuff.
As
from the other
robots
one.
go.
She was a looker back in her day.
What a hitter. And I like this too because there's another robot saying, "Thank you, Bender, for making us broken robots still feel useful." As they go.
This cart then goes into a machine area in the industry, which grinds them up and turns them into what is it? Like some kind of like
Paperweights.
It's a paperweight company. So old robots that are no longer useful are then melted down, destroyed, and then turned into paperweights. And so Bender's like, "Oh my god!" So he's pissed off that this is like such an injustice because he himself is now a damaged and broken robot, hence being having to use these mechanical arms and he can't move. But it inspires him, under Beck's guidance a little bit, inspires him to write a song about being broken to give inspiration to more broken robots in the future, right? So while they're on the road, Bender continues to write his song, and he and Beck are thinking of like, well, how do we raise awareness for broken robots? What can we do for this? And we actually get the an introduction, I guess, or the idea for Bend-Aid. Okay, so Beck,
like what you do when you get a little boo boo, you put a Band-Aid on it.
Get a Band-Aid or a bandage or whatever. Yeah, so this is Bend-Aid, obviously. And
after him, Bender.
Exactly. So Beck knows a lot of rock stars who I wrote this one down because I wanted to mention this to you specifically, Mitchell, because of how you and I feel about certain things, who want to look like they care about things. This is what Bender says to these people, right? Beck knows a lot of rock stars who want to look like they care about things, right? Not that they care about things, they want to look like they do, right?
Yep.
This is the key to this, and this is still very, very, very potent to this day.
Oh,
very
extremely potent, extremely. Any politician, I would say mainly on the left, but the right do it too. They really want to like, oh yeah, we're making so many causes feel good and feel like they're getting their voices heard.
Well, politicians, rock stars, actors,
actors.
name
Oh
it.
yeah. Oh
Name
yeah.
it.
It's
Anybody
all
with a
to
platform.
look
Yeah.
like they are giving a crap about how sad the world is. Meanwhile, they're living in their $1 billion
Mansions and yeah,
mansion
exactly.
with all their security, with their guns.
Yeah,
But hey,
exactly.
I'm donating
But hey, yeah,
0.5
exactly.
percent of
But you
my
know what?
daily earning.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm making the world a better place
Yeah.
by appeasing you fans by doing this one thing, and I've put myself on the social media so everybody can see that I did this one
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Imagination. Yeah, yeah. Shut up,
Oh.
y'all.
So yeah, the virtue signaling is strong for this. But in any case,
It
they can
existed
use
back
it.
then as well as now. Is basically what we're trying to
Yes.
get at.
Exactly. And Bender can use this as a platform to try and help with broken robots,
Ugh.
which, to be fair, this is a good thing. This is good intentions on Bender's part. He doesn't normally care, but this is also because he himself is broken. Had he not been broken, he wouldn't care, right?
No,
So,
no, yeah. It's what is this? It's like, oh God, this happened to me, so everyone should feel bad for me or with
yeah,
me, kind
put
of
it in
thing.
perspective now,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, whatever the case. But yeah, they're going to have a concert. They're going to call it Bend Aid after Bender, and it's going to be in San Francisco. Okay, so in California. And Bender can then sing his song, right? And Beck can be backup or whatever, but don't forget who the star is, so to speak, right? So we get another
Yeah.
cut of the USA of in the year 3000, and we get the states of this. So again, I wanted to write these down because they're so funny. I think they're very good. So this is Montana, Montana. So Montana. This one I was trying to figure out. Maybe you can help me. So Oregon. Oregon, or is it
Spelled with OX?
Oregon? Yeah, because it's capitalized Oregon, which is just it's Oregon, obviously the state Oregon,
I
but I'm not
think
sure if it's Is it supposed to be?
I'm
Yeah,
on the infosphere. I have
yeah.
so much trouble saying that word. I don't know why. And it
Okay.
links to this math equation thing called
Okay.
exclusive or exclusive disjunction or alteration. It's just something to do with math. I don't know.
Math.
Yeah.
You nerds, Futurama creators, you nerds. So
They created an alien language, which we see in the background all the time, and I'm pretty sure
actually,
there's
yeah,
like
one
a
of
whole thing.
these.
And guess
One of
what?
these is one.
They were angry that the fans figured it out, so they made another language off of it.
Wow.
So
God, you gotta love these
yeah.
guys. So one of them is user ID, right? So Idaho. One of them is Y. I think this is one of my favorites, just how it rolls off the tongue. Y Omega Ing. I don't know why. I just have Y Omega Ing. I like that, right? Wyoming. And then 24-bit Colorado, right? Nevada.
Because they got nuked at some point. Is that where what are those Fallout games occurred?
It was, yes, in Nevada. Yeah, because they have New Vegas. Yeah. Actually, I think the original game will take place on the West Coast. So yeah, a lot of them are in California and Nevada, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's another I don't even know what that's called, but it's okay. So it's Utah. The Utah song.
Yeah. So Utah is
translates
the one, right?
Yeah, it translates to human farm.
Oh, I like it. Okay, human farm. I like it. And then I do also like this. Yet another civil war happened in the United States, but this time in California. One of them is called High Cal. The other one is called Low Cal. So that was pretty good. I thought that one was pretty funny. So they go to, I guess, High Cal because they're going to San Francisco. And
there's also the San Andreas Gorge. So at some point, something happened to make it gorge.
That's the San Andreas fault line. So the fault line is like where the earthquakes happen, right? So it finally split open quite a bit, and now they have a giant hole.
That movie, those two movies with The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, Tooth Fairy guy. Yeah, that guy.
Sure.
Never watched it, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't really care, honestly. So we have Bender also finishing his song, and at another another concert we see during this little montage. So it's kind of nice to see these.
Yeah, Fry, Leela, Amy, and Zoidberg are having trouble with food, so they eat some trash wieners,
hot dogs. Yeah, exactly.
Dogs. Yeah.
So they're finally in San Francisco, and the Bender and those guys, the musicians, they're all staying at the Sir Francis Drake Hotel, and yeah, Bender's in the room and he's doing whatever, and he finally finishes his song, right? As he does, he makes mention of something smells quite bad. So the group, right, Fry, Leela, Zoidberg, and Amy all come in, and they're like all kind of tattered, and all this kind of
disheveled.
stuff. Yeah, they don't have a lot. They don't have any money. They've been basically sleeping in the van. So they ask Bender if they can crash there because the van is keeping them up apparently. So he says, "Yeah, no
Now,
problem, whatever."
I
Yeah.
would say this is a bit of a flaw. Mind you, this wasn't invented at the time. Like you couldn't just e-transfer money to an account or something like that, or use your phone as an example. So this wasn't a thing in real life at that time. But Amy is one of the wealthiest people in the universe because of her
Why
her
doesn't she
father.
call?
Yeah,
Yeah.
why doesn't she just call for like a transfer of some sort or something like that?
So okay.
Again, we could use that suspension of
disbelief kind of thing.
But,
Well, you know what? Here, you know what? I'll play that game with you because
okay.
I think there's something we can even say because we know Amy doesn't like to consider herself being rich, right? I mean, like she
Unless
loves
she
being
needs to.
pampered, she loves doing the stuff, but she dresses like she always wears. I think in that episode, puts your head on my shoulders, right? She even makes mention of like she doesn't like people considering her having to be rich or whatever. Hence why she looks like she's always doing her laundry, as Fry had put it, right? But
Yes.
Amy is also very like aloof to a lot of things that her parents do.
Loops.
Right? She's a klutz. She does all this kind of stuff. I think that there's also the idea that she actually doesn't know to ask her parents anything because they deal with it themselves.
Yes. Yeah.
So
She's a
think-
bit of a ditz.
Yeah.
I think
she
even
she
when
meant,
the one episode in the Comedy Central run where they lose the
yes.
casino.
I
She
think I
even
was about to
says,
just say
like,
this.
yeah, like what's rent?
Right.
think
She's like,
pays
who do you
rent
think's
on your
paying
place,
rent?
Amy?
And she's like, what's rent? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So she doesn't even know that people.
Yeah,
can
she's so rich that she doesn't even think about it.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
her being poor like this with him is a little strange because, like, yeah, why would she not just like leave or something or call her parents? But I just don't think it ever crosses her mind. She's just like, oh, this is part of the whole excursion. Maybe we have to be poor for this part of it. Like that's honestly what she could say. She'd be thinking that way, right? So yeah, we're gonna live like Zoidberg for this trip, I guess. It's like maybe that's the idea, right? Good question. It's a very good question for this. I don't know. But any case,
It's one of those things that like, why don't they just use a cell phone in this movie and go, yeah, the killer's over by me? It's just like, well, cell phones weren't working.
Cell phones and that kind of transferring stuff doesn't exist yet.
We'll pretend it was the 1990s where cell phones were a thing. Yeah, but these people are rich. They even used one in the early. Yeah. Just don't think about it.
Doesn't Amy have like a tiny little cell phone that she like?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We
Right.
I'll just do the guy. Yeah, shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, shut up about it.
Hey, shut up. Yeah.
Could you get way off my back about it?
Yeah, exactly. That's what the Futurama people are saying. Like, okay, 20 years ago, okay, just get off my back. Yeah. So, Ryan George, if you're listening to this, please do that sketch. You don't have to credit us, just do it. We'd be laughing. Though, if you did credit us, that would be nice.
Oh yeah, a shout out would always be nice.
Yeah, shout out is always great if you can do that. But any case, we have Bender and all those guys are in his room now, and Fry says, oh, like it's nice not having TV, like we don't really need it. And then he proceeds to turn it back on just to, because he wants to watch TV. And, as TV shows tend to do, they like this kind of TV show tends to do, we get right into a commercial that's needed for the plot, and we just get this commercial.
Right, yeah.
Band-Aid, right? Yeah, just beginning.
This type of what would you say?
Trope. Type of thing.
Trope, yeah. Never really. It only got pointed out to me by Abed from Communities when they were listening to the horror things.
The radio,
like,
right?
Yeah, the radio. It's like, well, we wouldn't turn it on and it wouldn't be right into things, so we're just gonna listen to music for a few minutes.
Right. Yeah, they're all like watching him.
Yeah.
No, that show is also wonderful in like the early season. Actually, the later season is okay too, but like the early seasons are gold for a lot of things. Yeah.
This type of trope never got pointed out to me directly till that. Like, of course, like it's like, oh, when you think about it, it's like, oh yeah, every TV show movie does that. It was like turn on this thing and we bring breaking news that people are getting eaten.
Yeah,
it's like zombies, stuff like that.
Right? Because the audience is not going to care about like, oh yeah, let's watch like 5 minutes of this nonsense and then go to the actual thing, right? Like it's not real life. But in any case, it does this commercial, and we're introduced to like Band-Aid on here, and there's going to be a lot of people there to raise awareness for broken robots, all this stuff, and we get a mention of not only Beck and Bender, but one we actually do talk about later in the future of the series as well. He gets brought up, and I think we actually hear him sing and speak is Wailing Fungus. This is actually like a famous band in the future, so this is like the first mention of him, and we get to see him. He kind of looks like this weird little alien thing, like a trash alien thing. It's kind of strange.
He looking at the Intosphere, he's only mentioned in 2 episodes. He's voiced by Billy West, so he obviously speaks at some point in there. It's either this episode or Proposition Infinity.
That's the one with
So,
Bender and Amy. Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So Bender and company get emotional, watching the commercial and like, oh wow, you've done a lot of work here, Bender. Like this means a lot to you, I'm sure. And he says, yeah. And he starts monologuing about like how he's, it's like, oh, I used to be this, and I thought I would never have this, but now I've got fame, I've got money. And as he's talking, he's moving. His arms start moving.
He's counting
He
on his
gets
hand
up.
with all the
He's counting his
things.
hand,
Yeah.
right? He gets out of his bed, and everybody else is watching him as he does this, but he doesn't really realize until
Fry.
Fry states like, Bender, you're cured, you're okay, and Bender freaks out. And of course,
Oh crap! It's a miracle.
we cut to the commercial as it were, and we return right after this happens, and Bender's like crying in the mirror. He's like, I don't go, my music career is over. In which case, like everyone's kind of confused, like why is that the case? Like you're going to be able to play music for sure now because you're fine. And it turns out Bender's more concerned with the idea that since he was a broken robot, he's going to be seen as a hypocrite if anybody finds out that he's no longer broken to said broken robots who would consider him a hero. I don't necessarily know if this was like an actual like joke at that time or whatever with Christina Aguilera, but he mentions like that me being pretending to be a broken robot and singing about broken robots is like Christina Aguilera singing in Spanish. And I don't know if this was something to do with her at the time, but I don't know why I kind of laughed. I laughed at that joke a little bit. But he says, that's what I'll do. I'll fake it. So he's still going to pretend to be broken in order to get this whole thing going over because he does want. I guess he wants to get the help for the robots or inspire people to see the broken robots, but obviously to get the money.
We all know it's about Bender's image, right? He wants to always be like in the limelight, like look at me, I'm the best, blah 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 kind of thing. So I think it's more about his reputation being tarnished than anything else.
Exactly. So we cut to Fry driving the van, and the other three are in the back, and Bender's gone off with the rest of them, pretending to still be broken. And Fry's driving down Lombard Street. And for those of you who don't know Lombard Street, this is the street that's very Anthony? Well, it's very curvy and very windy in San Francisco. It's one of the more famous ones. It goes kind of like down and everything. And as he's going down there, right, and it's turning, as he's going, Zoidberg is starting to spit up and make weird noises. To which Leela and Amy are kind of like, well, what? You're so disgusting. Like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, I've got dirt, and every time I get dirt in my throat, this kind of thing happens. So this has happened before, and I want to keep this in mind for like a joke later. But he spits up, and it turns out it's not like disgusting or anything. They're actually beautiful pearls that everybody's like, oh, wow.
Leela and Amy pick him up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think one of my favorite things is Zoidberg going, ew, you're touching them.
Right, yeah. She's like, oh my God, these are the most beautiful pearls. And then he's like, ew. Yeah, even Zoidberg thinks it's disgusting. I do like that, yeah. But they decide to, in order to make some money, because obviously they have no money right now, they decide to sell them as I think they're just love beats or something at Bend-Aid, at the major concert there, right? So it's kind of nice that so Zoidberg is kind of helped them, then he's hindered them, and then he's helped them again, all in the same kind of like with the same kind of situation, right? When they're all been on this trip. So at Bend-Aid, we are introduced to like, all this whole crowd, everybody's having a good time. They're, it's a nice outdoor musical concert, right? And we're introduced to the first act, Cylon and Garfunkel. Love this. Which is obviously a play on Simon and Garfunkel from there. But they decide to sing it's actually an actual Simon and Garfunkel song, and this is a
Sound of Silence, right?
Yes, I believe so. And it is
beautiful song.
What is it? Art Garfunkel. So this Garfunkel says from his like ancestor, it was beautiful.
1,000 years in the past.
1,000 years in the past or whatever. So they start singing it. And I believe this is I'm gonna guess Phil Lamar. I'm not 100% sure who guest stars this.
David Herman.
It's David Herman. Oh,
and then Cylon is voiced by John DiMaggio.
Okay, well, Cylon is just kind of funny. So the Cylon obviously is a reference to Battlestar Galactica, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. And I'll say yes.
Yes, and so you have this beautiful voice of, Art Garfunkel, distant relative.
It's pretty good. It's a pretty nice voice too. Yeah,
a very nice voice. And then you have Cylon like the robotic. Yeah. No tune whatsoever.
I don't know the lyrics. So plus we might get striked. So yeah.
Yeah, sure. So anyway, after they're done their whole thing, and everyone's still cheering, so clearly this must be a common thing to happen with Cylon and Garfunkel, right? So the main attraction begins, and of course it's with Beck and Bender and this whole group, right? And this is one of my favorite jokes. I'll say this right now. Is so they start playing the song, and it's an actual Beck song. They start getting to the rhythm, and then it kind of cuts to like evening. I want to say it's like it's afternoon, then it cuts to evening because the sun is starting to set and everything. So the song's been going on for like 3 hours, and Bender finishes it off with like a washboard thing. So who knows how long he's been playing his like chest doing this. And then Beck says like, that song doesn't usually last 3 hours, but then we got into this big thing, and then I forgot how it ended. And I love that it's Beck saying it, like it's actually him.
Like, do you think that happened to him in the past or something like that, where it's just like
no, I think this is just a typical concert little joke or something. Like sometimes these songs, because there's a famous musician called Eric Clapton, who is both famous and infamous for playing like his guitar playing is incredible, but at his concerts he typically liked to solo a lot more than he would during like his actual like recorded sessions. But in his actual live sessions live concerts he would solo for minutes and minutes and minutes. Like it was a long time. So I think this is kind of what they're playing on, is that sometimes live performances tend to go on a bit long for like one or two of these songs because they can. And I think a lot of people, and this is why I think Beck basically says like, well, we've reached the end because we only had this one. We only played this one song. But as they finish it up or whatever, Cylon and Garfunkel come on to offer in front of everybody like, hey, Bender, we know that you care about your broken robot, deal and everything with this. So we want to offer the first amount here, $14,000 in check, this giant check they put on there. And this is for you to start your charity with broken robots. And Bender's like, oh, I'm so touched. This is great. And then it's kind of like a play on routine. Like Beck's like, okay, why don't you sing about your feelings, Bender? So Bender and Beck begin singing Bender's song that he's been writing for part of the episode, My Broken Friend. Sung is basically the word, I guess you could use this, by John DiMaggio, right? So this is kind of the whole thing. But it's like it's a well-made song. Like it's upbeat and the lyrics are really good. It feels like almost a complete song, right? It doesn't feel like anything's really cut out. And yeah, they start very strong. Everyone's like, yeah, right into it. Everyone's really good with it and they're cheering. But of course, as they're getting more into it and they go into the second verse and everything, Bender starts to move, right? And he's jumping around and he's having a good time and all stuff. And Beck is like, wait, what is going on? He's no longer singing back up and he's like, yo, what's the dealio? What's going on? So you got to stop this. Stop, cut it. And of course, Bender's finishes the song to the very end, right? So they finish it off and everyone's like, oh my God, he's a phony. He's an absolute phony. So the broken robots then bum rush the stage to try and attack Bender. Bender steals the check to get away, and he puts it into his chest case, his chest opening or whatever you want to call that, right? Was that just chest case, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he grabs like a stage rope and he basically George of the Jungles his way off of off of the stage. And wouldn't you know it, he lands perfectly right in the open top window of Fry's van, and they're all in there still selling their beads. So Bender steals the van. They're all in there, and unfortunately, a couple people didn't get their love beads, but Zoidberg, helps them out a little bit.
Yeah. Oh no, I didn't get my beads.
Yeah. So Bender escapes with them, and they all start driving down, and they're doing like this is referenced in a lot of film and a lot of television, and it makes for a good chase scene, right? Because you have the cars like flying over the road, because you can go really fast, and it's really steep getting over it. So yeah, I mean it's funny because like this van is the only one that's on wheels. Everything else is a hover vehicle. So as they're taking off, Beck and the other musicians that are kind of playing here, including Wailing Fungus, and we even get like a little cameo of Neil Young's head. Like I had to pause it to see who it was, and Cylon and Garfunkel. Yeah, like they're all on the bus or whatever. So Beck says like after him, and we have to go, and so they're chasing him down all these areas. And as they do, they get to they go through like all the streets of San Francisco, and they're going down these roads, as I mentioned. They even hit Chinatown. This is another really funny joke. So like in Chinatown, they're doing like a parade as they do, and they
Dragon
zoom
Festival
by
or
this
whatever.
dragon costume thing, but it turns out to be like an alien.
Yeah. What is this? The year of the jerk?
What is this? The year of the jerk? Like it's so funny.
That is pretty
Because
good.
it's an actual alien that turns out to be the actual dragon. Like it looks like that. So that's pretty funny. So they still drive, and as they do, they're about to hit the Golden Gate Bridge. But the Golden Gate Bridge in 1,000 years in the future has turned into a hover bridge, which means you need a hover vehicle to
What's the
do
point of
so.
a hover bridge if you just hover?
Hover over it. I think it's maybe to direct traffic. I don't know. Who knows? Or maybe they just never, because the Golden Gate Bridge is so iconic to San Francisco that they can't get rid of it. So they wanted to turn it into something useful or something like with the times. So they just turned it into a hover bridge, aka removing the road but keeping like the Golden Gate arches and everything. That's what I would guess.
I'll go.
So-
I'll believe that. Yeah, the icon.
Yeah.
Landmark, iconic.
The iconic landmark, right? So, any case, as they're driving towards it, they have this little back and forth about like, oh, this is a hover bridge. Oh, we're not in a hover car. Oh, this isn't
Is that
good.
a problem?
Is that a problem? So they go over the
Ledbrick
bridge,
says, "Not if you lived a life without regret."
right? So they go over the edge of the cliff of what was the bridge there, and Bender saves them. He's trying to save himself, but he does
Yeah.
save them.
Oh, save me.
Yeah. And as he's gripping like the ropes on the side of the bridge that kind of slow them down as they're falling, and they all hold on to him, which kind of slows down the van, and it stretches his arms to a point where they touch very nicely onto the ground. And as
Delicate
he's holding
landing.
onto it, was that
A delicate landing.
very delicate landing? And then they're like, oh, whew, this is all good. They let him go, and he slingshots up into the air and disappears into the sky, basically, Bender. So I think this is one of your favorite jokes, right? We next cut to like the boardwalk in San Francisco. People like selling souvenirs and everything. And there's a souvenir stand with a very skinny lady, very, very skinny lady, and there's a giant fat guy.
Which
And
we've
what do
seen
we
a few
hear in the
times.
air? Yeah.
Somebody fat get in my way, and then he lands on the skinny girl.
Lands on the
I do love that he's gonna land on the fat guy kind of thing, like the
Yeah.
what is that,
subversion.
no.
Yes.
Yeah. This is the type of subversion I like, not the
Yeah.
hey, you guys want to watch this movie about this man? Psych, it's about this woman, and we've killed off the
Right.
man. We're still using his name as the title of the movie. Psych.
Even though it's nothing about him. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is the subversion of expectation that most people are like, oh, I see what you did there. That's a funny joke or whatever,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. You made me think this would happen, but it
Yeah.
didn't. It did happen.
I also
but in a different way.
like how like when he lands on her, like Bender's like heavy, like he's got to be like a few hundred pounds, right, at
I
least.
think multiple times they've mentioned that he's about a ton or something
Right,
like that.
he's
right?
heavy,
Which-
and he's super, and he's metal, right? Like he's obviously very
Yeah.
heavy, and he just fell out of the sky. He lands in this when we say skinny, like this lady is super skinny.
yeah,
As soon as he gets
think
up and like kind of rubbing his head or whatever, he's like, oh man, I'm a little dizzy. She gets up. Like she just sits up like it was nothing. So this chick is like super special too. Like I don't know what's going on. But in any case, as Bender's like walking around all dizzy from his fall, the Beck's bus shows up and hits him again. So Bender acts as if he's broken again so that they don't really want to like hurt him or anything. But it turns out that Beck sees right through him. He's like, nah, you're lying. You're whatever. Like I don't believe you at all now. But as Bender says, like, well, I'm sorry. I lied, Beck. I just, I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I wanted to do the right thing, but this just happened. And again, Beck calls him out, but he says, listen, I know you didn't mean this, but I forgive you. And that's all. That's the last time we hear of Beck, unfortunately, for this episode. But it's nice to have him in there. He's pretty funny in this episode, actually.
yeah, I did like him. Yeah.
So as Bender's lying there, he's like, oh, so that mean I get to keep the check, and then Cylon and Garfunkel take it back. And the musicians take off, and Bender reveals that he's actually perfectly fine. So he gets up again, and he's like, okay, I guess it was worth a shot. So musicians leave. Bender hears that Fry and the gang are behind him, and I want to say like they're paddling the van in the water, right? Because it landed on this little edge area where the bridge was or whatever. So that's why they were safe. So they just drove it into the water, and they're just paddling the van now to get back to New York. Or they, the easiest thing, they'd probably just get to the shore and then just call a taxi, because we never see this van again either. So anyway, they're paddling this van, and Bender says, "Okay, I'm coming," and he's like, "Okay, I'm going to do one more thing to cheer me up or whatever." So he takes because San Francisco is famous for the gay pride and for having their gay communities there. It has like a little magnet that says like "I love men" on it.
I heart men.
Which means I love, right? So he puts it on his
Oh.
on his head, and it screws up his inhibitor, and he starts singing. I believe it's Jimmy Crack Corn again, but he's switching it with Fry and Leela's names and all this stuff, and finishes, "But Bender is great," kind of thing. And that's the end of the episode. So that's Bendin' in the Wind. Yeah, you know what? Overall, I think this episode's funny. There are a couple of scenes that make me laugh.
We're definitely more on the funny track with this one than clever writing. There is cleverness here, but there's more funniness involved with this episode.
The state names. Like I wish we could have seen all 50. Honestly, yeah. I think those are super cool. Those are super clever. Your favorite joke and MVP and all that fun stuff. I want to
say Zoidberg. Yeah,
Zoidberg is your MVP.
He had a lot of little one-liners and stuff like that. Like, ooh, you're touching
poor to travel a band.
That was it. I don't know, Fry. I think I'm too poor to follow a band in a van. So there's that one. That was pretty funny. Yay, Zoidberg's helping. Kind of thing. Like, it was all on purpose.
Yeah, you should all be happy you have a friend like Zoidberg. Yeah, no, you're right. Zoidberg has a lot of really good lines. Man, it's hard to say. Yeah, these ones. I'm gonna go the guest star again. I'm gonna go Beck, because I think like Beck has a couple of items that I really like from it. So he says like,
"How's that song end again?"
Yeah, how's that song end again? Or he's like, "When I made that song Devil's Haircut, what's that song about?" Like, I love him playing off himself, right? Like he's making fun of himself in this episode, which I really respect when people do as guest stars. So I think that's really good. I do love his like, "You minion, raise my arm."
Yeah, with the mannequin
after
arm,
him, right? Yeah. And then every time he has like that one guy who always moves him because he's on that mannequin body, but he can't actually move. So I don't know. I think Beck is great. Yeah.
Another joke I did like was when they're all looking at the van, and Farnsworth asks, "Where's the device that speeds or slows down the passage of time?" Which Fry pulls out a bong.
Yeah. So that the only one that kind of notices or freaks out about it is Hermes. If you watch the scene, yeah. Hermes is like, "Oh," he's like, "I'm going to use that later." So yeah, no, that one was really good. No, overall very strong episode. It is funny. So any case, yep, that is Bendin' in the Wind. And yeah, I guess we'll see everybody next time for as Mitchell just mentioned here, Time Keeps on Slipping, episode 14 of season 3 here. So yeah, thanks again, Mitchell, for joining me, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Toodaloo.